Well, hello there, and welcome to another tank review. I'm Corny Swiss, and today I'm looking at the T-34-100. It's a rank 4, 6.3 battle rating Soviet premium medium tank. Now, with all reviews, if you want to see a specific part of the review, go ahead and click those timestamps down below. They'll take you to the various sections of this review. But if you want to hear the garage portion, let's get started. So it's actually really hard to find information on the T-34-100 as a specific variant of the T-34. This tank seems to have primarily existed on the drawing boards, and maybe some were prototyped, but certainly not used. It's basically the continuation of the T-34-85. You know, an 85mm gun isn't good enough, let's mount a 100mm gun on it. So the goal is to put more firepower onto the already proven T-34 platform. And, you know, that's not a bad idea, right? Good sloped armor, good speed, basically everything you want in a medium tank. I mean, the T-34, the base model, is considered one of the most influential tanks ever built. And there are actually countries still using them today. Now, obviously, it's extraordinarily outclassed by modern armor, and it's been outclassed for many, many years, but kind of a testament to the tank's value that it's still in service in parts of the world. So, let's talk about what the T-34-100 is in War Thunder. So, like I said, rank 4, 6.3 battle rating. Okay, it's a premium, so you get all those bonuses, and it costs you a smooth 6,000 golden eagles, which, you know, that's a stiff price. But what are you paying for? 33-ton machine, 500 horsepower at 1800 RPM, 55 km/h top speed. This thing is pretty mobile. It's a T-34 variant, so they're all pretty mobile. But this one does pretty well. And the weight is fairly light because it really doesn't carry that much armor for its battle rating. I mean, we won't skip to the armor yet. Let's finish with this. Maximum inclination of 34 degrees. Turret rotation speed of 25 degrees a second. That's really, 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 really fast. That's one of the fastest turret rotations in the game for an armored tank, not a AAA piece. Like flak trucks can probably spin around much faster, but this is a tank, and it does 25 degrees a second, so that's pretty cool. Vertical guns, 5 degrees of gun depression, 20 degrees of gun elevation. That's pretty cool too. This thing's got decent gun depression, and elevation is fairly standard or good. So that can be pretty helpful. You can pull off some shots you can't in other tanks, but 5 degrees, I'll take it. That's good enough. Now we come to the armor. Part of the reason this thing is so fast is entirely due to the armor. It still has this T-34, T-34-85 hull, 45mm, basically all around. Well, I say basically. It is all the way around, 45mm. All right. Front is pretty sloped. Sides are sloped. You can angle with this thing. The problem is, even when you angle, it's only 80-something millimeters. Not a big deal. You do have this hatch on top here over the driver's hatch, and the driver's hatch, and it's, you know, it's 75 millimeters thick, but nah. Usually when you get hit, you get penetrated. And the turret's 90 millimeters. You know, no big deal there. Usually, if you get a bounce off this thing, it's because they hit you like you're angled kind of like this, and they skipped it off the front right here, because this generally will bounce a shell. And you might get lucky bounces just because of the raw sloping, 60 degrees. It's a lot of sloping. But the front of the turret, pretty weak for what this tank sees. Sides of the turret, 75mm, 52mm at the back, and it continues all the way around for a 52mm rear of the turret. So the armor isn't that impressive. I've gotten bounces in it, but it's more so due to like the enemy just having a really unlucky shot where I'm coming around a corner and it skips off the front of my my upper glacis here, kind of like this, you know, and that's not going to penetrate. A heat round, I don't know, maybe one of the new heat rounds would, but I don't even know then. Generally, if I get a bounce on the turret, it's because it skips off the side at range, kind of like just right here. You know, that's generally not going to penetrate if they hit you kind of on this edge. So there's a lot of little things you can do to get lucky, but on average, this tank gets hit, it will get penetrated. And I mean, but that all kind of plays into the fact that this tank is pretty light and has a good engine, and it can go pretty fast. And that's kind of more of how this tank wants to be used, as a wolf packing medium tank. You know, not a tank that wants to sit there and, you know, slug it out with other tanks. No, this tank wants to kind of, it wants to move forward, but it also wants to be in a group where you can just sort of overwhelm all at once, using its large caliber gun to just cause more hurt than it takes. So let's talk about the gun a little bit. Pull it up. So this is a premium, obviously, so you get all the ammunition choices unlocked right away, which is cool. The only shell I've fired out of this gun is a BR-412D. Why is that? Well, because these two shells are alright. You have the BR-412, you know, 16 kilogram, 895 meters per second muzzle velocity, 210 millimeters penetration at 10 meters, 188 at 500, 144 at 1500, and 126 at 2000. That's good enough. That's not something to look down at. That's pretty good for a APHE shell. Well, you have the BR-412D, or B rather, which is basically the same shell, just a little bit better penetration. I'm not going to read out the values because it is just like a couple millimeters more. Come down to the BR-412D, you lose a little muzzle velocity. It's only 887 meters per second now, but you do gain about 20 to 30 millimeters of penetration across all ranges, and that can be significant. So generally you just want to fire this round because it's an APC-BC. It's basically the same thing, and it has that good damaging effect, and it has good penetration. So, and the muzzle velocity hit isn't that big. It's the same weight of the shell. This is basically just an upgraded version of the previous shells, so that's why you kind of want to just fire this. 100 millimeter gun, HE is not effective. The only time it'd be effective is against flak trucks. And this AP shell here is plenty effective against flak trucks. So, nah, don't worry about it. Don't use this shell. Use this one. This one's good. You also get artillery, which is really cool. So, that's kind of like the quick and dirty review of this thing, because there isn't a whole lot of to talk about with this thing. It's a T-34-85. It's a T-34. It just has a 100 millimeter gun and a slower rate of fire, 13.4 seconds per shell. So, you know, that's kind of a long rate of fire, considering what you go up against. There are a lot of tanks with shorter rates of fire. Well, shorter reload times at least. But most of them aren't packing 100 millimeter guns. And the gun is what makes this tank tick. If you get the side of a Tiger, he's toast. Get the front of a Tiger, he's basically toast. There's lots of situations where this gun will just toast whatever you're shooting at. And that's what you want to use with this tank. You want a wolf pack and just deliver one-hit punches. You know, you want to be just a heavyweight fighter. You just run in, you punch someone, and you knock them out first hit, you know. And hopefully, well, I guess you're not a heavyweight because you don't want to get punched back, but you get the point. This thing wants to deliver just a big, powerful punch, and then hopefully its punch is powerful enough to avoid taking any return punches. Because usually if the enemy get a return shot off, it's going to cause you some problems. So you want to avoid that at all costs. And that's when you put the speed and the maneuverability of this thing to use to position this gun in such a way that you can destroy the enemy. So, let's look at the X-ray while we're at it. X-ray, I mean, kind of what you expect. The entire side of the tank is made of fuel. It's wonderful. The other side too, yes. The floor is covered in ammo. The turret has a little bit of ammo in it. So, the same logic for other T-34s applies here. Hit the side of the turret, hit below the turret. And the same with most tanks, I guess. If you hit them below the turret, that's going to knock the tank out. Right above the third drive wheel, or the third track wheel here, anything in here, this will knock the tank out, almost with certainty. Because the shell, when it penetrates, is going to get at least two of these crew members. For some reason, this guy's called the aimer, commander, and the loader. Don't know why that is. Driver. If it comes through here, it's likely to get at least the aimer, we'll say gunner, loader, and it might hit the commander, might hit the driver, depends where the shell enters. But it will hit this fuel tank, and it might hit this ammo. If it's an APHE shell, it will explode and wreck this ammo, kill these guys. and that'll be a problem. So if you have to shoot this thing, just shoot it below the turret like most tanks. That's generally where you want to shoot it. So the quick recap, this LB1 gun, 100mm, is really good. It's a really, really good gun. Rate of fire is a little slow, but you're a fast tank that can wolfpack very easily and position yourself to slam enemies with that shell. Your armor's not great, but you know, I'd trade armor for a good gun most days. So it's really just an up-tiered T-34-85 with a 100mm gun. So, and honestly, it's more effective than the T-34-85. So there you go. But anyway, let's look at some replay, shall we? So here we are in a realistic battle on the Finland map, and this is this is the break game mode. So I've decided to be on the attacking side of the world, and I'm coming over here to push on to the enemy's cap zone. I will say this, and I say it a lot, something that I don't feel like gets focused on enough is just how beautiful this game is. Like, look at this, driving through the snow, you can see the snow, on my tank. The scenery looks amazing. You can see other tank tracks through the snow. It's really cool. I wish some of the I guess game design decisions were made a little better, but for the technical, just what it took to make the game this beautiful, that's good stuff. You know, I wish there were a lot of games that looked this pretty. And the Finland map really brings it out. It's just Winter Wonderland. And I hope we get more maps like this. Hope we get a desert map. I think that they could do a lot with that. Just with the sand and the effects and stuff. That could look really cool. And hopefully by that time, I would have built my PC, because that's my next big project I'm undertaking, is hopefully the end of the summer, maybe the end of the school year, I'm going to build myself my own PC. And that'll be really cool. So, what's happened in this game? I noticed there was a tank, I believe it was a Tiger, who just ran past that gap. And I thought they might have seen me. So I'm being a little bit more cautious now. I dropped Artie, and I want to move forward, but I also don't want to get surprised by a Tiger tank. Or whatever it was. I assume it was a Tiger. So I came up here, and I was half expecting him to be off to the left there. But he wasn't. And you'll notice I get stuck on this stupid rock. I've been getting myself stuck on rocks a lot lately. It's always unfortunate. So I'm going to decide to go around the right side of the rock. My thought was I'm going to be downhill from the enemy, and hopefully that means he won't be able to get his gun down on me in time, and I can get the first shot. Looks like we got a T-34-85 here who's with me. You notice the similarities between the two tanks. Mine just has an up-tiered gun, basically. But we're both going to push up here together, and we're going to start making a move on this cap circle. I don't really want to move into the cap circle because I know there's enemies in the area. I'd much rather move past it and down to where the Tiger must have gone, because that's where the action's going to be, and I want to get this tank dirty. So he must have gone down here. So at this point, I'm basically just trying to track him down. I know I'm behind him, so I don't expect him to... Oh, hello. Enemy tanks. There's a Tiger, there's a Panther. I get the gun up and I put a shell into the Panther, but he's already been knocked out, so nothing there. And I know the Tiger's already knocked out, since he's on fire and stuff. I don't know where that must have been the Tiger I saw. He must have gone around a little farther up and then come down into that pass. But at this point, we're capping our zone. The enemy are capping, well, they're capping B, we're capping A, I think, if I can read that right. B being our zone, A being their zone. And I'm looking over here for a target. I want to push forward because I want to keep the enemy back from our spawn, or from our cap area. Put a shell into the duster there, I think that is, whatever it is. M42, I guess. And I basically want to get up here and take kind of a flanking position, kind of a sneak attack position to hit them as they come out of their spawn. Not directly out of their spawn, but kind of down these roads, because Finland has a lot of wide open space, and you can really, really take advantage of that. I thought I saw a tank there or something, but it was just, wasn't a tank. Put another shell through the Looks like a duster. I'm not sure. I don't know the AAA very well. I don't think it is. Someone can correct me what that is, but suffice to say I killed it. It's not alive anymore. There you go. Oh, it's an M18. Or an M... whatever that is. Whatever it is, I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head what it is, but it's dead. I'm not. So we come over here. Nope, that's Tiger Tank. Shell enters, knocks him right out. There we go. That's a Tiger. That's a good kill. And this thing kind of feasts on Tigers, but it is 0.6 battle rating higher. And this replay is a lot of... this is what this tank is very good at. It's very good at kind of getting out over here and approaching the enemy quickly from unguarded flanks. Now, I shot that guy because his gun was... the strategy for shooting that guy was he was behind this Tiger. Right? When you kill the guy to the rear, the guy in the front isn't alerted. If I had hit that Tiger and he all of a sudden exploded, the Sherman there might have noticed where I was and gotten a shot off on me. So there was a strategic plan there to shoot the rearmost guy, not the foremost guy. It's just like in like Assassin's Creed or those games where you start at the back of the pack and you work your way forward, like, you know, on one of those street patrols. It's the exact same idea. You know, in this case it's just tanks. So basically, the goal now is basically to envelop this side of the map. We know there's a couple, maybe one or two more tanks that are kind of trapped over here in this area. Teammates might be knocking them out, but we still need to kind of clean this side of the map. We're recapping our zone, and we're taking theirs, so all in all, good, solid outcome. Coming over here, checking it out. The SU-152 decided to move the other direction. Oh, he's coming back. There we go. We've capped A, and the enemy haven't been able to cap B. And I actually take it back. This is not the break game mode. This is the battle game mode, because I'm dumb. It looks like break, but it's not. We've captured their zone. They're losing points quickly. The enemy is trying to capture B, but that's not going to work. And oh, there's a Sherman. Should have fired that shot right there. But I'm going to be able to kind of position myself. Oh, going to need to move forward. We don't have much time left before the game ended. I really want to hit this guy, and I do, and knock him out. So a nice way to finish the game. But that whole game kind of represents something this tank is very good at. When you can come across, when you can kind of use your speed a little bit to kind of get to the enemy's flank and then just work across. You have one hit punch, so usually the enemy aren't going to get a chance to react, and you just have to be strategic with who you knock out. Start from the back, work your way forward. That way no one sees you knock out the guy behind them. If you start from the front and work your way back, the enemy are going to see the tanks being blown up in front of them and turn their guns to you, spot you, and destroy you. So, let's move on to the next replay, shall we? So here we are in a simulator battle. What do you know? Not often you see a simulator battle on this channel. It's not that I don't want to play them. I've just been a little turned away from simulators since they took out, or since Gaijin took out the individual simulator queue. I don't like having to go into simulator mode as an event. It's not an event. It's kind of part of the game. You know, to me, this was the fundamental difference between War Thunder and World of Tanks and things like that. So I hopefully someday we'll see the return of simulator battle to ground forces and to air forces as well in the form of a selectable queue. I mean, eventually, I guess the thing that'll bring it back is when the average population on the server gets to a point where it can sustain that, I guess. Because queues were long, but you know what? Simulator battles are worth it. So hopefully we see that come back, and I think that would make a lot of people happy if it did. I think that's free brownie points, honestly. And oh, okay, the T-34 here is taking hits. He's taking fire. I need to get over here and help. Something just backed up around that corner, and I have a bigger caliber gun, so I can certainly deal with whatever it is. Checking my flanks. And I'm basically just going to push up forward onto this corner and try and pump around into whatever's on the other side. And it looks like a Tiger. I could be down for some good Tiger. It looks like a Tiger E. First shell goes in, causes him some serious problems. Just waiting for the reload, which takes a long time, but going to be able to knock him out with that shot. Okay, so now, little known to us, there is in fact a Jagdpanther to my right on the other side of this little hill. But that bomb, and the bomb behind me, basically breaks everything on my tank. I don't think there's actually anything that wasn't broken, which can be an issue. So I immediately start repairing, and I'm telling my team that I'm repairing, and there goes the Calvi or whatever it is, lighting up, shooting rockets. And he's actually going to be what warns me to the fact that there's a Jagdpanther to my right. Got knocked out by him. So I've got my turret traverse back, and I immediately swing my turret around to my rear, because actually I'm having a big debate here, and you can tell based on how my turret's swinging around. I'm almost positive the Jagdpanther's going to move forward, and he might even come over to this side of the ridge. So, but I know that the enemy spawn is to my front, and that's where the enemy are most likely to come from, just on pure numbers game. So I'm kind of spinning it back and forth as I'm checking. You know, I'm almost repaired. As soon as I'm repaired, I'll be able to deal with this Jagdpanther and then turn my attention to the front. But I start spinning, I start trying to go over here, I turn, and I was, oh, that's a Jagdpanther. Get the gun down. Put a shell right through him, cause him some serious problems, knock him out. That's the power of this gun. This gun is really, really potent. Right, now, that was entirely whoever got the first shot, and I actually like his chances better. And that's primarily due to the fact that his sloped armor is better than mine. Right, he has, I think, 80 millimeters of heavily sloped armor. I have 45. He has a very high velocity 88 millimeter gun. I have a pretty good velocity 100 millimeter gun. So in terms of guns, I felt like we were even, but in terms of just armor, he had the advantage. But my shell was able to defeat his armor, penetrate, and knock him out before he could fire at me. And now I'm out on this bridge, and I'm kind of looking for an opportunity to hit some flank shots or something, but unfortunately they aren't going to present themselves. And I am actually going to start taking artillery fire for some reason. Don't know where that came from. That's an allied tank. The enemy are capping A. Well, that's kind of a problem. So we're going to need to turn around and go back and deal with that. That's something that I think is interesting on this map, and I don't know if I like it or don't. The fact that this map is so heavily divided, you either go north or you go south. And usually it means that both teams start capping each other's zones, which is fine, but I don't know. I feel like the map should always funnel you into kind of one area or one group of areas where fighting will take place. Not necessarily, okay, and this was a dumb idea. I just saw that guy get absolutely obliterated. But I'm going to come up over this ridge, and I am trying to angle so that I have a chance, but this was a bad idea. You know, that was a bad idea. I mean, I'm going to get away with it, and there's the Tiger II to my front that I didn't initially see. I just saw him right there because allies started lighting him up. Fire a shell. Penetrates, but he's already taken a lot of damage. But this guy's stuffed. Yeah, I mean, he had like 3 tanks around him. He was done. Oop, plane. You can always have a go at a plane. Why not? Of course I missed, but not a very good shot when it comes to hitting planes. So, yeah, I think back to what I was saying. This map, I think it might need a rethink, just because the center of the map is, especially in this game mode, is not very valuable. You know, it's kind of cordoned off by itself. It's difficult to traverse in. There's a lot of just problems in there. So I'd rather the edges of the map maybe funnel into the middle somehow, and then you have kind of a, but maybe you tear down the fortress a little bit. I don't know, something to make the middle more valuable, so more people kind of get pushed there to some degree. You know, because like Finland is a good example. I think Finland is pretty good map design, but that's primarily because there's there's really 4 main corridors that you fight in, and you have the opportunity to fight cross corridor, but you have to expose yourself to both, to about 3 fields of fire to do so. First shell goes in, causes a lot of critical damage, sets him on fire, so that guy's basically toast. But in this game, in this match, you basically have 2 forms of attack. One in the middle, but no one goes there. Well, I mean, people go there, but it's difficult to use because of how difficult it is to traverse. And every time I go up there, I always get stuck on something. So I just don't do it, which means that teams basically end up winning by cap. Or at least in my experience. Oop, I just saw that guy get hit. Oop, I see that guy backing up. You ain't getting away from me, sunshine. Something else I'm a fan of in this game is just the explosion effects. The way when a tank's ammo rack gets cooked off, the way the fire comes jetting out, and things like that. Really cool. But, and on the topic of simulator battle, I don't think, but it's actually this is one of the few simulator battles I've played since it got moved to an event. I've basically just been playing realistic, and that's not, like I said, it's not really because I want to, it's because that's kind of what I've been pushed to do, primarily because a lot of times the tank, like if I'm working on a review, I want to play a specific tank, well I can't play simulator battle on that tank every day. A lot of times it's not up in the rotation, so I need to play realistic battle, so I just play realistic battle non-stop. I get used to the game mode a little bit more, and am able to create better results, hopefully on a more consistent basis. Because that's kind of how these videos get made, is I need to have games where I feel like they're worth posting, and then I can talk about them. Well, that guy had to go. Upset I didn't hit this guy. I'm just not very good. It looks like he's got the 40mm cannon pods on. Those must be fun. I want to get that plane just so I can try it. I want to get all the planes with the big caliber cannons just to try them out in ground forces. I feel like it could be pretty cool. Obviously, I'd have to be a much better pilot, but in realistic battle, I might be able to get away with it. In simulator, absolutely not. But one can dream, right? So I guess to have a little bit longer discussion about the T-34-100, I hope the gameplay has kind of shown you that this thing is basically T-34-85. The fundamental difference is the caliber of the gun and the effectiveness of the gun, because quite frankly the T-34-85 never really rung a bell with me because the gun just never seemed tremendously effective. That was a tight dive, how he pulled out of that. That was cool. Like, it's always been difficult for me to get super results in the T-34-85 because I find myself in frontal engagements way too much. In this tank, you're kind of in the same boat, but even if you run into a frontal engagement, you have the penetration to deal with it. Tiger's no problem. They're like 6.0 battle rating, the Tiger E is. So you're not that much higher than them. In terms of where do I see this thing's battle rating being, I think it'll go up. I think 6.7 is probably appropriate. I'm not sure if 7.0 would be. It could be. It could be appropriate. It could certainly succeed at that battle rating, so maybe it should be there, but I don't know. I don't know. It comes back to the idea that I think we need a 9.0 for post-war things, but that's a topic for a different video, and I think it's been discussed. But in reality, I think this thing's battle rating does get increased. It's like most tanks that came in with 1.51. A lot of them are going to end up with their battle rating increased. Like the T-34 STZ, when it entered the game, it was a 3.7 if I'm not mistaken. it's now like a 4.0 or something like that, which is appropriate because it has better armor. It's a good tank, you know. It has better kind of random chance armor because you don't have to angle it for the armor value to be decent. It's not like the T-34-100, which I'm really glad has stayed at 3.7, primarily because having good side armor is great, but side armor requires you to angle. Angling requires you to kind of know where the shells are going to be coming from, and that's not always obvious. Having a good front plate generally is more effective than having good side armor to kind of those random chance encounter situations where you turn a corner, they turn a corner, you both fire. Having better front armor makes you more likely to survive that encounter. Whereas having good side armor means that if you know an enemy's at the end of a street, you can side scrape out, they'll hopefully bounce their shell off your stronger side armor, and then you can plant a shell on them. So it's like having better side armor, I think overall is better, but it's better in a more tactical way. It's not as good in a more, I guess, practical way, if you want to say it that way. It's probably not the right word for it, but I hope my meaning's coming across when I say I think side armor is really, really important, but with some level of front armor. You can't have paper on the front and god tier armor on the side because, well, they'll just shoot you in the front, you know. And yeah, it makes, you know, I hope that makes sense. But I don't know, this tank could be effective at higher battle ratings. I don't think it'll get to 7.0, but 6.7 is entirely appropriate. It could get to 7.0 though. I mean, there's tanks at 7.0 this thing could compete against, so why not? But anyway, let's move on to the final opinion, shall we? Alright, so opinion time. What do I think of the T-34-100? I think it's a pretty good tank. There's not a lot to complain about it, and that's primarily because the gun. The gun is good. The speed is good, the gun is good. I'll trade armor for speed and a good gun any day. It can suffer from, it's kind of a glass cannon because the armor isn't great, and the shells that it gets hit with, like Tiger 2s and things like that, just generally cause it big problems, because if it gets penetrated, it basically gets knocked out a lot of times. So you need to be kind of careful. It's a good idea to be with your team. It's always a good idea to be with your team, but this is a tank that benefits from that a lot, because a lot of times if the enemy shoots something else, if you get a chance to fire at them, you'll likely knock them out. It'll be very difficult for them to take a hit from your gun, which is likely to penetrate because the penetration is so good, and survive the engagement or not be severely disabled. So generally treat this thing like a glass cannon, but don't be afraid to put the legs to use and get out on the flank or move forward with your team and press the issue, because it is an effective attacking tank, but you want to use that speed to kind of surprise and, you know, be sneaky a little bit. And it does that pretty well. Is it worth the cost? It depends. You know, it kind of depends on it depends on, do you want to use this to grind out your rank 5s? I think it's a pretty good tank to grind out the rank 5s in. I mean, it's a fun one to play. Sometimes you get one shot right away, other times you just wreck people, but overall it's a pretty solid premium tank. And if you were going to buy a premium tank and you were going to buy a Russian one, this isn't a bad option. This is definitely something to consider. Partly because it's just, you know, there's not much you can go wrong with slapping a 100mm gun to a pretty good chassis. You know, it'd be nice if the armor was up-tiered, but I don't know. It'd have to be up-tiered so high that it wouldn't have the speed, and I think I'd rather have the speed. So, yeah. It's difficult to recommend anything that's like 6,000 Eagles, but if you have 6,000 Eagles and you're looking to spend them, this isn't a bad place to spend them. It's overall a very solid tank. It'll get you to your rank 5s. It'll do it relatively in a hurry, depending on, of course, on your results per game, but, you know, overall it does its job, and it does it pretty well. So, that'll be it for this review. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. And as always, if you have questions, comments, concerns, suggestions for a future review, leave that all in the comment section. And yeah, I've been Corny Swiss, and I'll see you next time.